Ladies and gentlemen, so President Joe Biden uh, made his Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day speech. And I'm going to play the speech and I'm going to give, during the speech, my rebuttals. Usually I'll wait to do it after. But there's stuff I have to add at the end of his speech, too. Now, there's a lot to unpack here. But beginning this, I want you to look around, see who's not around him, see who's not there. And I'll tell you at the end of this video why they're not there.
Last week, Vice President Harris and I visited Atlanta, Georgia, the cradle of civil
And made a horrible speech. Horrible. Stacey Abrams didn't even show up for the president coming to town.
rights in America. We paused and prayed at the crypt of Dr. and Mrs. King. We met members of their family, Dr. Bernice King.
It's funny how when they're talking about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., they bring prayer into it. But if you look, their minions don't believe in prayer. The same minions who, once they took power, tried to take prayer out of Congress and Senate, which I do believe they did. The same minions who don't want prayer in schools, the same minions, it's the same leftist party that goes after high school football coaches who pray before a game that none of their players get hurt. But now, see, when it's time to grovel, because they know their administration has been a complete disaster, they turn to prayer and religion.
Martin Luther King III, his wife, Andrea, his daughter, Yolanda. We met students.
Now, understand why they're bringing them into it. And Dr. Martin Luther, or not even Dr. Martin Luther King III made a speech today about voting rights and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of this video, I'm going to explain something to you about those voting rights and how this voting bill actually hurts the black vote.
Who were changing the world, just like generations of young people before them had done that. In fact, Dr. King was just one of those young people, 15-year-old student at Morehouse College when he began his journey to fulfill the promise of America for all Americans. A promise that holds that we're all created equal and deserve to be treated equally throughout our lives. Dr. King wasn't just a dreamer of that promise, he was a doer.
And while Dr. King was doing, Joe Biden was on the floor of Congress saying he did not want his kids growing up in a racial jungle. After Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated for lofty works, I mean, just amazing, Joe Biden passed a crime bill because he said these black criminals, they're not kids, they're animals. You don't believe me? There's YouTube footage and you can go see it for yourself. It's not me saying it. Came out of his own mouth.
And on this federal holiday that honors him, it's not just enough to praise him. We must commit to his unfinished work, to deliver jobs and justice.
Now, if you'll keep in mind, the black community, not only blacks, whites, Asians, had the largest job growth in those communities in the last 20, 30 years. And we've lost jobs under Biden. Now, I'm not going to say it's all his fault. His policies are trash and they're killing the economy. And I kind of wonder how it would be if COVID wasn't here. Actually, I don't think if we didn't have COVID, he would have been elected because you wouldn't have had so many states doing absentee ballots. And I showed you on my own ballot, they sent to me almost 4 months after I'd already moved to Texas, and they put my Texas address on it. They sent Tammy one. So that's 2 votes we could have voted in Washington states. I showed it on a video. I forget the video. Go back and watch it. Go back and find it and watch it. But there's a very specific video I'm going to show you as to why this falls on deaf ears, or should fall on deaf ears in the black community.
Protect the sacred right to vote, the right from which all other rights flow.
Now the question is, who are they protecting the right for who to vote? That's the question that's not being answered, but I'm going to answer that question.
The attack on our democracy is real. From
No,
the
not.
January 6th insurrection
That's stupid.
to the onslaught of Republicans' anti-voting laws in a number of states.
Keep in mind, most of these Republican state laws he decries, right? His own state has a lot stricter voting laws. A lot stricter. Some of these voting laws, like Texas, Florida, Georgia passed, actually extend the voting time, while his state restricts it, extends mail-in balloting. In his state, you actually need to have a reason. Not saying anything about that, not attacking it, but he was in charge of that state for a great many years, so he must agree with it. Why let those black people vote?
It's no longer just about who gets to vote. It's about who gets to count the vote.
Now, keep in mind, remember during the 2020 election, there were scores of Republican counters who were not allowed in the building. They were turned away. They were turned away. Don't forget that. He's not wrong. It's about who counts the vote. Who counted his votes? I'm not spreading any election conspiracy. I'm just stating facts. You don't believe me? Fact check me.
And whether your vote counts at all. It's about two insidious things: voter suppression and election subversion. In his time, through his courage, his conviction, and his commitment, Dr. King held a mirror up to America and forced us to answer the question, where do we stand? Whose side are we on? We're in another moment right now where the mirror is being held up.
He's right.
To America, being held up again.
Yep.
The question being asked again, where do we stand? Whose side are we on?
He's not wrong.
Will we stand against voter suppression, yes or no? Will we stand against election subversion, yes or no? Will we stand up for an America where everyone is guaranteed the full protections and the full promise of this nation, yes or no?
Now, I want you to realize what he just said there. Will we stand up for an America where everyone has these guarantees? Well, I ask you a different question. Do we want an America where every American citizen is afforded these rights?
I know where I stand. It's time
On the side of Bull Connor.
for every elected official in America to make it clear where they stand. It's
Not on
time
the
for
side of
every
Bull Connor.
American to stand up, speak out, be heard. Where do you stand? Whose side are you on? On this day of remembrance, service, and action, may God bless Dr. and Mrs. King and their family. May God bless you all.
To me, it's the height of hypocrisy where now they're God bless and God this and God that. When just not even a year ago, look back at I can't say the Democrat Party. I can't say that. I will say the leftist section of this party. They don't want God in schools. They don't want prayer in schools. And you talk about God bless America? Don't be ridiculous, man. Nobody believes you. Now, let's move on to something else. I want to show you something. Who was not there? Al Sharpton and the so-called black leaders of America, right? Now, I don't know if Al Sharpton is going to back him up later on or what Al Sharpton is going to say, but I know last week he came out and took a shot at President Biden for his speech in Atlanta. And let me tell you why. Actually, I can show you why. Go back on my videos a year ago. I'm wearing a red and black shirt, and there's a video entitled, Biden tells black leaders they're not getting anything. I laughed when I heard it. I really did. There is a phone conversation as soon as he took office. Him, Kamala Harris, Al Sharpton, some other black leaders from around America. And Biden literally tells them, with Kamala Harris agreeing, you guys need to give it the Hispanics. They're their largest voting bloc. And if you look at these voting laws they're putting in place, they're not for you if you're black. They're not for you if you're white. They're for illegal immigrants. Yes, sir, they are. Think about it, right? And I've told you guys this. The whole time I voted absentee in Washington, because I worked a lot, had my couple of businesses, trying to get things going. So I decided to vote absentee. I never showed an ID to anyone. And as you can see, from one of my other videos, they still send me absentee ballots to these days, even though I've been back in Texas for quite a while now. So I could still be voting in Washington elections. Because they don't ask for a copy of your ID or anything to prove who you are. Now, what happens? Somebody else moves into the place I used to live in and they send my absentee ballots to them. And I even registered. Me and Tammy saying, hey, we're moving. We're done. Did not take us off the rolls in Washington. Kind of ridiculous. But that's what happens. So you don't see Al Sharpton and the black leaders standing with President Biden. Because he's already told them what the deal was. So now what's happening, see, is Martin Luther King III, who I've never heard of before. They're setting him up to be part of the new black leader cast. See, because the leftists aren't stupid. They've realized this, right? They followed the old slave master ways. See, they've studied how to keep slaves on the plantation. You see, they've studied how Hitler mesmerized, emotionally charged an entire nation of young people. I've told you on here before. I've had parents say they try to talk to their kids about politics, but the reaction is just so emotional and so visceral that they can't. And I told you that's what's going to happen when you talk to leftists. As you can see, go back, like I said, go to the Dan Dawson Show Facebook page. I post the receipts on there. We're talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. I was like, well, tell me how it was racist. He killed 3 white people. Fuck you, you motherfucker. I'm like, he killed a pedophile. Who cares? Who cares? I don't care for pedophiles. I'll tell you that right now. It's like, how dare you? Fuck you, motherfucker. I was raped when I was a kid. To show you the mentality, and I'm like, so wouldn't you be happy that he killed a pedophile? That's one less person to harm, one less kid. You motherfucker. Then the person who made the post actually messaged me, you can't talk to my aunt like that. I'm like, your aunt cussed at me first. You know, fuck her. Like, you can't say that. I'm like, well, bye then. And so she blocked me on Facebook, took down the messages, and I love making them do that. I love it. I think I was fighting like 5, 6 of them, but it shows you that leftist mentality. That leftist mentality. See, as long, I'm telling you, that's why the leftists are the real racists, right? Trump doesn't care what you do. They can call Trump a racist all day, but he passed prison reform for nonviolent crimes that affected more black inmates than any law I can think of. He basically undid the Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden laws. He did what Bill Clinton wouldn't do, what Obama wouldn't do, what George Bush Jr. didn't do. And understand, when they start talking about prison reform, they just want to let everybody out. Go and be a victim if you want to. But their policies, you understand, are destroying America. That's why they want to take your Second Amendment rights. Because how long are you going to stand for it? And let me say this, just to end this video. I saw this funny Facebook meme yesterday. Not really funny, but funny because it's so true. Remember, if you leave your blue state or your blue city and you come to a red enclave, you're not a missionary, you're a refugee. Thank you for watching this episode of the Dan Dawson Show. Like, subscribe, share. If I got something wrong, please let me know in the comments. I have a very thick skin. I just ask that everybody be respectful. I like to see dialogue on my channel, so let's get that going. So thank you. Like, subscribe, share. Share this with your liberal friends. And as always, especially in these days and time, keep your powder dry. Do what you got to do.